You're watching BCTV. We're all about Branford. You're watching BCTV, Branford Government Television, a service of Branford Community Television. This program is brought to you in part through the support of the town of Branford.
Good evening. My name is Peter Basserman, Chairman of the Branford Inlet Wetlands Commission. I'd like to call the meeting of June 10th of the Inland Wetlands and Watercourse Agency to order. It is now 7:03. A couple of comments in the beginning regarding masks. In the building, outside of this room, masks are required. In this room, if you are vaccinated, you do not need to wear a mask. If you're comfortable wearing a mask, please do so. The other note is that the public hearing that was scheduled for this evening, June 10th, has been rescheduled to the July regular meeting of the commission, and that meeting date is?
July 8th.
So that public hearing has been moved from today to July 8th, same time, 7 o'clock. I think that's it for the in-person comments. Thank you, BCTV, for recording. It's a great community public service, and we appreciate the exposure. We're going to take a roll call of commissioners. I see that we have 5 commissioners, so all are seated and present for discussion. Roll call, starting with Commissioner Rose.
Commissioner Rose here.
Commissioner Gross.
Present.
Commissioner Grinalsh.
Present.
Commissioner Begeman.
Present.
Commissioner Basserman, present. All right, first on the agenda, and the agenda as well as the documents for tonight's meeting is in the town Dropbox for public review. First up is the minutes of May 13th, 2021.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of the May 13th regular meeting.
I'll second it.
Is there any discussion on those minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
Commissioner Begeman abstains.
Wasn't here.
Before we proceed, I'd like to ask staff if there are any amendments to the agenda that was filed on June 9th.
So I would request to amend or adjust the bond amount for 1151 West Main Street was received this afternoon, so I'd request that the commission add that as part of the discussion under item number 5A.
Seems appropriate. Any commissioner have an issue with adding that to the agenda?
If somebody can make a motion. Should be-
I will make a motion, this is Commissioner Bassman, I will make a motion that we add a request received on June 10th to amend the bond for Inland Wetland 19-1101, 1151 West Main Street.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
We're amending the bond or we're amending the agenda?
Amending the agenda.
Yeah, you said bond.
Oh, I'll amend the motion to say agenda instead of bond. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion or comments? All in favor?
All right.
Aye. Any abstentions? Any opposed? Okay. First up, we have Inland Wetland 210503, 12 Parish Farm Road, single-family house, which is an individual permit for a lot. This overall subdivision has already been approved. Staff, you want to take that and bring us up to speed?
Sorry, I keep wanting to say my name and title. So just real quick, the first 3 applications are all part of what was the 99 Todd's Hill Road subdivision. There are no wetlands on any of the 3 individual lots for which the applications are submitted for. The first two are, I'll let Jim take it from there.
Good evening. Jim Preddy, Frisco Engineering. We're representing the subdivision at 99 Pass Hill Road. This is a subdivision you guys approved a while back. There's a few of the, a little more than half, I think, have been already received permits and been under construction. We're here for, the first three permits our applications are for lots on this. It's lot 1, lot 5, and lot 6. Just to orient you, this is Parish Farm Road, Pass Hill Road, Cherry Hill Road. This is lot 1. In all three cases, the houses are more or less in exactly the same spot that was shown on the subdivision plan, because the building envelopes are so tight on here that there's really not a lot of wiggle room. In any event, we're showing the house, this particular house had a driveway that was coming through the common driveway. This green dashed line is the edge of the 100-foot buffer. So you see it's just touching this lot. We have everything outside of that. The rain garden we've been using is shown. Typical erosion controls, silt fence. The construction entrance is actually at the end of the common driveway. Pretty simple. Hopefully that we can get through these and move them to agent approvals as we have with the other lots, so keep your agenda for the public hearing next time short. So that's lot 1. I don't know, do you want to move on these separately, or do you want to do them all at once?
So can we take them one at a time as a vote, and then, move
Yeah,
these things
so I
along
think all of
quickly?
these might be appropriate for agent approval based on
Right.
past practice. So I think we can kind of run through, at the end of each one, you can determine whether it's good for agent approval or if you want to see it again next month.
I'd say, are all the houses in the middle of the lots pretty
So
much? Is that what your comment would be?
This one is all the activities outside the upland review area. There's another one where there's just a little bit in the upland review area. And
All
then
right,
the
we'll do
third
one by
one
one.
is probably the one that you guys want to look at the most.
Does any commissioner have an issue with lot 1 for
No, I
agent
think
approval?
agent review and approval should be fine.
Is that a motion?
Do we need a vote
General
on each one of
consensus
these?
is fine.
What's that?
General consensus is fine.
Okay.
Okay.
All commissioners that feel that agent approval is appropriate for lot 1? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next one.
So this is lot 5. Again, the house is sort of in the center, given the building setbacks we're dealing with. This green dash line is the 100-foot setback from this wetland area. Basically, we're just extending the silt fence into that area, grading kind of right up to it, very close, but really don't have any activity within that 100-foot upper area. Again, the rain garden we've been using, and this one. Oh, yeah. So this one's self-contained. So the footing drain and the roof drain are here in the rain garden. Again, typical erosion control, silt fence. This one also comes off that, a different common driveway, but common driveway.
Jim,
No
could I-
wetlands on the
No,
site,
no.
you're just in the
Wetlands are
upland
this
review
finger
area
that's up here.
of the 100-foot.
and the contours are moving downhill as you go up the
Yeah.
sheet and away from
You know,
the upland review?
This whole subdivision, basically, it's kind of a bowl that goes down to the pond.
Yeah,
So everything
okay.
kind of goes away from the roads.
Okay.
Again, I
The
think,
capacity of the rain garden in a heavy storm, Jim, how does that function?
So they're designed to sort of, fill up and leach in the ground. We over excavate and put in looser material. During a 100-year storm, people are on the roof, they're not looking at the rain garden, but it will, because we're spreading it out through this thing, it will should more or less sheet flow out instead of a point source discharge out of the gutters. But yeah, in this case, it'll actually go across the driveway first, but then down
Gotcha.
to that.
Downgrade?
Yes.
Okay. Another one looks like agent approval.
I
Is that what
agree.
you're saying?
Agent approval.
Does any commissioner have an issue with this being agent approval? All in favor?
Aye.
And this is lot 6, this is the one that's the furthest one down. Again, houses in the center, typical silt fence, erosion controls. This one also comes down off the same driveway as lot 5. This tail here is just here frontage for this lot, but it's inaccessible because of the slope here. So this one in this, the thing that's changed with this one basically is that we're hopeful to provide a common footing drain for a couple of lots, because up here the lots are so flat that we don't have enough grade sheet to daylight a footing drain without a pump. So we're hopeful to combine, I think it's lot 3 and 2 in this lot, and have one riprap outlet area where it's 5 by 15 feet long, so plenty long enough to dissipate the energy, and we would have an easement across these lots, but not having a pump is a big deal for people right now. So from what you had seen at the subdivision level, that's the only real change here, is that we're gonna have a drainage easement and an outlet for 3 of the footing drains, which at times, right now, may not even be running at all, so.
This is Commissioner Basserman. What's the maintenance plan for then that drain?
Well, it'll be riprap, so as long as,
The
as long as
outfall will
the
be
weeds-
riprap?
Yeah, the outfall, yeah, so as long as the weeds get knocked down once in a while, it'll be fine.
Is there any indication on who's responsible for knocking down those weeds?
It will be on lot 6, so my understanding is that it will be part of their maintenance, but these other 2 lots will have the rights to it, so in case he doesn't, they could go on their weed line. Just to keep the pipe open. They'll have common maintenance, installation maintenance agreements through the easement.
At the end of the day, if they don't maintain it, it'll backfire on them.
Yeah, I mean, it'll take a while, but it could back up, yeah. So it makes sense for them to want to maintain it.
Will the pipe be solid from the edge of the side of the foundations out?
But it'll be solid all the way down to the outlet. Yeah.
Yes, from the foundation out, so no perforated.
So,
And-
so
and
it's
that-
just protecting the house, it's not trying to dewater the whole
Yeah,
place.
that's what I'm getting at.
Commissioner Basserman again. So the condition, or part of the conditions of the easement would be the maintenance of that
Yeah,
structure?
So the 2 lots in the front and this lot will all have, well, I mean, it'll be on this lot, but they'll have rights for installation and maintenance of the drainage pipe.
And the discharge is, so the green, that's
These are wetland areas.
That's wetland, so the discharge is essentially right into that wetland.
Yeah, I mean, this is, you would never be able to tell where this is with any other, because this was all mowed lawn for a number of years.
Oh,
And now it's generally speaking, tall grass, because
Yeah.
it's not a maintained lawn anymore. This will all be, the open space is going to the land trust, although I don't think they're taking ownership of it until the construction's finished.
I think they do have ownership.
Do they have ownership? Yeah. I think they weren't, there
I
was
guess
some,
part
there
of
was
the
some
way for-
caveat though about maybe not putting it to the public while there's
Right,
construction
right.
equipment there or something like that.
so don't we need to, I mean, as a building code issue, you're discharging drainage off-site and onto somebody else's property, in this case, the land trust. Don't we need to address that?
No, I mean, it was all going there anyway.
Yep.
I don't think that's an issue. We are discharging it on this lot, and that'll be in their deed that these people have the rights to drain there.
There has been kind of a lot of discharge from some of the footing drains, so I think it might be appropriate to have some sort of condition that it should be monitored for a certain period of time. And if it needs to be adjusted, that proper adjustment should be made. If that's something that the applicant thinks would be amenable.
Absolutely.
The other thing I'd like to ask the commission about regarding the fact that the site was by and large maintained as mowed lawn. Some of the lots have now sold, and so property owners are going to be maintaining their properties. There's a approved limit of disturbance on the site plans. If a property owner wants to mow an area that has historically been maintained as mowed lawn, does the commission see that as a violation, or is that routine residential maintenance that falls under section 4 of the regulations as of right?
Can you ask that question again?
Yeah,
So, the site has historically been maintained as mowed lawn when it was one residential lot prior to the subdivision. It has not been maintained as such in the recent years while they've been going through the permitting process. But I think as people are purchasing the properties, something that might happen is mowing beyond the approved limit of disturbance in an area that looks like an unmaintained lawn. Is that something that I should be sending a letter out to property owners, making sure they're aware of limits of disturbance? Or since there's no ground disturbance and it's maintaining lawn in a way that has been maintained previously, would that be considered a residential maintenance of residential property that's as of right per section 4?
this Commissioner Bassman, if this was not a subdivision, and it was just a single family, and we had an area of unmowed, et cetera, how would we treat that with a limit of disturbance?
Well, generally speaking,
There wouldn't be one.
well,
Unless they saw the permit.
if a residential property mows a certain area, whether it's wetlands or not, and they've historically done it, predating wetland regulation, they're allowed to maintain the residential property as they've been maintaining it. So that's why I'm kind of at the sticking point. So I just want to make sure now, before we approve these last handful of applications, if there's any difference of opinion that the commission has, that can be addressed and wrapped up. So if they're mowing, is that acceptable, or is that something that would be a regulated activity that they should come to the commission for approval for? There's no ground disturbance, it's,
Yeah, if it's just mowing, what is the danger?
okay.
Is there one?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Didn't we get involved in this issue with that property at Pent Road with the mowing? The town was mowing, and then when the homeowner mowed, it
that-
wasn't okay?
I think it was a
Right.
bit different because that was,
Town.
so that wasn't supposed to be mowed, it wasn't a known practice.
Right, but the
of being
town had mowed it, and then the homeowner mowed it, so that's the precedent for this case. This is being mowed, and now the homeowner wants to mow it, so I think we have to be consistent. Because we made the
Well, I
homeowner,
think that one is a general routine maintenance, and one was something that
A
occurred
violation.
once that was not necessarily permitted. So I do think there's a difference between the two.
okay, I mean, as long as we can justify that there is in fact a difference, because we made that homeowner spend significant amount of money and get soil scientists in there to do tests, and we have to, I think, be very consistent
Yeah.
among everybody that comes before the commission.
You want to take an individual vote? 'Cause from my standpoint, he should be able to mow it and maintain his property.
I'll say this just for the sake of saying it, that the thing that leapt into my brain was what kind of chemical usage is on lawn. And I'm all in favor of letting the guy mow his lawn. It's always been mowed, we don't need to be heaping things on top of him. But he's directly abutting, and on top of abutting, discharging groundwater and drainage around the buildings, 3 buildings, directly into wetland. So, do we want to, I can certainly see that we want to let him mow his lawn, but do we want to say something about what he shouldn't be doing on his lawn?
Because now it's going to be a lawn instead of what it was before.
No, it's going to be a lawn like it was before, but that along with the water that's being directed to wetlands is going to run off-site directly into wetlands, which I assume is the northeast corner of that property.
Where it didn't run before.
No, it ran there before, but here we are discussing it. We never had the opportunity to discuss what the prior owner did. Now we're discussing it because we have a different circumstance, and not simply a change in ownership, but a complete change in the use of the property. It's not single family, it's now multiple homes, and so, and I hate going down this road because I'm the last person that thinks this way, but I think if we don't talk about chemical usage and things that may or may not be a problem in wetlands, then we're just ignoring something that should have been brought up, so I'm bringing it up.
This is Commissioner Vassman, point of clarification, but the wetlands is to the right. And I thought the sheet flow,
And
And there.
there's here, there's.
oh, okay,
there's-
gotcha,
Directly
There's
downhill.
quite a bit of wetlands on this property.
gotcha.
They're kind of all over the place.
So if those contours from the northeast corner of the house are going directly at wetlands, and the discharge from those three buildings' foundations are directly gonna go slope into the wetlands.
So you think there's more discharge because there's more houses as opposed to when it was just one house and a big
There's certainly
open
more
field?
discharge
Yeah.
because of the foundation drainage. But I'm not talking about the discharge, I'm just,
The chemicals that could potentially be put on.
I
Fertilizers.
mean, he goes out there and, I know people who round up their whole frickin' property. I've seen it. It's like, you did what? So while we're sitting here talking about whether they should mow their lawn, I guess it just begs the question that we should certainly, I think, affirm his right to mow his lawn, but we might want to say something about what's appropriate in maintaining the lawn directly above wetlands.
Plus, or Jamie, when you were mentioning the limits of disturbance, if somebody decides to dig up their lawn and put something in because they think they can, but they can't, they really shouldn't because there's a limited disturbance.
So, well,
They need to know that.
that would probably fall under a new project, a new permit application. So for a single-family house, usually when a new application comes in, it's oftentimes an undeveloped lot, not always, and so there's usually a lot of clearing that has to happen, and there becomes this kind of clear limit of where the yard is. On these sites, it's all lawn already, or grasses of some sort. So I think it might be a little confusing for a new property owner when they come in as to whether or not, how to maintain it. So say they want to put a shed up, even if it's within the limits of disturbance, they're going to have to come back in for a new permit for that shed up.
But they can put a
application for the
garden
shed.
or whatever else they want, right?
Gardening is as of right, although it's not self-determining, but generally speaking, we wouldn't get involved in that unless they're trying to put it in the wetland directly. So I guess my question is, and it stems from the fact that some of the lots have sold, and I've seen some of the maintenance of different lots, and so I don't want to set these ones apart from the other ones, but I also want to make sure that we're not ending up with a condition out there that the commission is not aware of or okay with. So to the point of chemical treatment of lawns and such like that, would that be maybe something to confine to the limits of approved disturbance, and then anything beyond that can be mowed but should not be treated with any sort of?
This is Commissioner Vassman. I guess Commissioner Rose brings up the point about chemicals. Irrespective of subdivision or not, we
Yeah.
have an issue of chemicals treatment on lawns, right? And if it's endangering a wetland at all. So that, to me, is kind of a common thread that if we don't have in a regulation, probably should be noted somewhere in our regs.
Okay, for like
So
a
that-
future
So
revision?
for all public consumption.
Does anyone know if historically they did treat the lawn? I mean.
I don't,
our For years.
Yeah, so I did look at some Google Street imagery of the property, and right up to the pond, throughout the wetland, it was cut down lower than I'd probably
Right to
cut
the edge
my
of the
lawn.
pond?
So, it's definitely been a maintained lawn majority of the site. Okay. Historically, so, and from my looking through the files of when the subdivision was approved, there was no maintenance discussion regarding these areas. No, okay, so you're doing this, how are you gonna change the maintenance in these areas? So I don't wanna go I mean, I just want to make sure that everyone's on the same page and we're not telling homeowners one thing and the commission thinks another thing's happening. But I do foresee a lot of the properties that have already been approved, somebody going out there and saying, oh, that grass is really tall, I'm going to cut it. And then they're going to maintain it however they maintain the rest of their lawn. So I just want to make the commission aware of that and see if that's something you want to try to address at this point with these last couple of applications, or if you want to keep it consistent across the board and go from there.
I don't, Commissioner Branford, I don't like the idea of, because these happen to be the last few, all of a sudden the anvil, comes down hard on them. I think, if we got another subdivision, we can have that discussion about everybody, but to decide that these three qualify and the other ones get a free pass, I don't think that's right.
I agree with that, and none of these properties were cleared. I mean,
They didn't need to be. For
right, they walked out there, dug a hole, stuck a house in it.
They've all been lawn or
Right.
agricultural field.
I don't think we're here to turn this back into something it hasn't ever been. And, those lines, as you pointed out, they're important, but they're also invisible. Those wetland lines are not discernible in the field, and of course, that's common, right? It's about the
Which is out of
soils,
sight, right.
but nevertheless, there's not even vegetation to distinguish between them, and the maintaining as a lawn is a continuation of what it's been for decades. So I will restate that I'm all in favor of allowing these people to maintain their property within their property lines and consistent with their wetland permit about what's the limited disturbance or not. And I raised the point about the chemicals. I don't know how we deal with that or not.
Well, to that end, and I don't know if it helps at all, but the developer has already asked us to start setting pins around the limits of the land trust property and staking where the post, on the subdivision map, we own posts with open space signs. So we're gonna be starting to do that now, which brings up another point, because it's not town open space. You gotta have to contact the land trust to get the signs.
I would, reach out to them.
But anyhow, so, the limits of the lot will be marked, because when we put the pin in, it'll be a flag, so at least initially, they'll know where the corners are. When the stake goes away, they'll have to remember, I suppose, but they do get a copy of their map when they have to close it.
I think it's important to have a record either way, so that way if there's a question down the road, there's something in the file so that homeowners are aware of what the decision is. So is there a general consensus that it was lawn and this is a continuation of the pre-subdivision maintenance of the property?
Yes.
Yes.
And they'll know if they want to put a shed or anything, that they have to come back to us.
Hopefully. Or I'll let them know.
And I guess the discussion of chemicals we hold for another day.
But it is a good point.
Yeah. Let's see, moving right along.
Well,
Are we done with all three?
So I think,
Oh, yeah.
just wrapping up on the third one,
Agent
the
approval.
biggest changes are the joint footing drain for a couple of the other lots, which will be a modification of some of the other permits as well, which I could handle administratively. And then the disturbance is actually reduced from the original subdivision approval, because the subdivision that the commission approved had the access coming in from Parish Farm Road adjacent to the water course. So it's actually a little bit less disturbance than what was originally
Yeah,
shown.
this was gonna require retaining walls to get down there, and the other part of that is part of the public input at the planning and zoning level was getting some of the driveways off of Parish Farm Road because of the hill coming down. So that's why we have a couple of common driveways now.
For the sake of saying so, I've seen people do remarkable things with footing drains. Can we make it crystal clear where solid pipe starts and a notation prohibiting perforated pipe from the foundation out?
Absolutely.
I can just see them having a load of perforated pipe and nothing to do with it, so let's use it here.
No, I understand, yeah. We'll make it clear.
All right, so if the agent, or the commission's okay with agent approval, then I'll just touch base with you tomorrow on some of the conditions slash
Okay.
site plan revisions.
So inland wetland 210505 is ripe for agent approval. Commissioner agrees?
Fine with me.
Yep.
Commissioner Beckman?
Yep.
Okay. Next up, inland wetland 210601, 54 and 60 North Main Street.
Hey, sorry to interrupt. You, in asking us to agree that you referenced lot 5, but wasn't that lot 6?
That was
Last
6.
one was 6.
Yeah, so you might want to restate that and ask us again, because you said lot 5.
Oh,
I thought he said 6.
I thought he said, it was inland 210505, lot 6
Right.
is conditioned for agent approval.
Yes.
That's a yes?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. 210601, 54 and 60 North Main Street, construction of a new automated car wash.
Good evening, Jim Preddy again. 54 and 60 North Main Street is directly across the street from the fire headquarters. It was the site of a paving company for many years. There is a large wetland area that goes through the center of the property, Canoe Brook, which actually goes under the road through the firehouse property and then down toward Pretzel.
Oh, this is, yeah, it doesn't.
Highlighted in yellow here is the existing building and the existing retaining wall. It's a precast block retaining wall, large block retaining wall is right on the edge, and that's pretty much where the site's been filled to. And then there's an existing fill pile of debris and some dirt. But we did do a couple of test pits here, and the fill that's on the site behind the wall is pretty much all trap rock. As far we dug down into the water table, and it was trap rock the whole way. So there was, I guess, some story about somebody being related to Tilcon here, so they got leftovers. And in any event, there is some various debris that's kind of scattered, reachable from outside by hand. Walk in and take out some scattered junk, I guess. We were proposing to remove. We're proposing to realign this the retaining wall slightly behind the old one to provide a little bit of a space so that once the old block come out, we can actually put some seed in there and kind of create a little bit of a buffer. But we're hoping to use the site that historically has been used, again, filled with trap rock. This building outlined here is the proposed car wash. You would come in, go through, and then either go into vacuum spots and then back out, or just leave. They are proposing some water quality basins with some infiltration possibilities. Again, we'd have to excavate some of that out, but given all the crushed stone that's under there, I think it will probably work well. So in addition to doing some cleanup, we're going to provide some water quality improvements that don't exist at all there now. We do know that this is for receipt tonight, and I imagine that the commission would want to take a look at the site, and I would be available for a site walk. We could get that scheduled before the next meeting. With me also tonight is Attorney Joe Porto, representing the applicant, and also the applicant, Nick Magnata, who's hoping to open a car wash here. So at this point, I was, because it's for receipt, I was trying to stay brief, but I can entertain any questions, general questions that you may have.
Commissioner Basserman, the chemicals, I guess, how are chemicals treated before they're dispersed or after dispersed?
So this is...
Are they discharged? Are they discharged?
Anything from inside the building would get discharged to the sanitary sewer anyway. So they would go through a grease trap first and then into the sanitary
The
sewer.
down system, okay.
But as far as the workings of the car wash, if you have those sort of questions, again, Nick is here and he can answer that sort of thing.
Is there any, Commissioner Basserman, is there any cleaning operation with the car wash, or is everything kind of on an automated drive-through basis? However,
I'm sorry. Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
is it a automated drive-through system only? Or is there an opportunity for somebody to drive up and use the facility to do the car wash themselves?
No, this isn't a self-serve system. It's an automated tunnel. Everything's automatic, electronically controlled. Shoot, even the chemicals, most of the water and chemicals we would recycle too.
So you won't be doing any like detailing over on the
No,
side?
actually, it's a new concept I'm kind of bringing from down south, and we do no detailing, no full service, nothing outside of washing and vacuuming. That's it, and the vacuuming is done by the customer. No chemicals outside of the building itself. It's basically just an exterior car wash. We don't do any full service, we don't do no Windex, nothing, no aerosols or anything like that.
The retaining wall, you're reusing the existing block?
No, that retaining wall's in pretty bad shape, so.
Yeah, I didn't recall those being interlocking, and your
They're not, and
details
they
show
don't
it's
have the
interlocking.
keyways on top
Right.
of the ones that you buy now,
Right.
so.
So it's new.
They'd be new, like I said, where it's the tightest, we are pulling back a few feet, again, just to provide something over the edge, so as it were. The other thing is that this, right now, from the road, grades back on a pretty flat slope. We're kind of directing it toward the center to collect it, so it won't run off directly into that wetland before it gets treated anymore.
I know this is a little early because you're not dealing with the building, but will the entrances and exits of the building have drains to catch everything from it that's, inside the building?
I believe that's the way they're set up, yeah. I mean, I've been in other ones that aren't his, but
Right.
nothing usually ever runs out of the door.
I just don't.
I think it becomes a problem in the wintertime if it does.
Yeah, and OMI guys would kick my butt.
Yeah, I don't see a detail or anything that says that. So,
Again, anything that gets used inside the building gets contained in the building.
This site we had walked once before, correct?
This was a site we worked on a year ago.
Yeah.
Because there was a old violation that
Right.
never got cleaned up and they cleaned the site up because he was selling it, and that's what obviously, this is the people that are either buying it or leasing it, whatever.
Right.
I don't remember if the commission did a site walk or not.
yeah, we did.
We did.
It was last fall. And, I remember not being too thrilled with the cleanup of the other side of the wall. And you just mentioned, I think that you said there's an intent to clean up whatever's left there. And I won't use the word clean up, pick up whatever's left on the other side.
It's not a tremendous amount of stuff, and it's
Yeah.
pieces that could be easily picked out.
Yeah, okay. But we can expect that.
This is Commissioner Bassman, and I think we saw pictures of the cleanup. We didn't actually visit it after the cleanup had been done.
Yeah.
I guess the question
Fair
is, do we need to walk this site prior to the next review meeting so that we can see the activity that's taken place, and especially because of the closeness of the wetland to those blocks? Would that be beneficial for the commission?
I think he said, they're replacing the block wall, they're pulling it away from where it is now, and they've represented that they're going to pick out whatever's been left by the past guy. We have seen it. I've been out there personally since. I don't have a need to go back out there and look at the same thing, particularly given that they're going to be improving the position of the retaining wall relative to the wetland.
Yeah, my only thought there, Commissioner Rose, was did we have a difference of opinion on how much of a buffer we want between the wetland and those blocks?
I think it might be beneficial for the commission to go out just because the stormwater drainage system also is right adjacent to the wetland, and that's an area that's not currently as disturbed as the rest of the site, so I think it just might be good for the commission to see the full extent. It's up to the commission though if they want us to schedule a site walk or not, and not everyone has to go.
Right.
So,
And you're talking about the proposed stormwater drainage?
yes, the proposed
Yeah.
basin. Yeah, because basically the activity is extending along the entire, almost the entire limit of the wetland on the site.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? What's this? Is this impervious surface on the first page map, all those little dots? Is that impervious surface now?
That's ground.
That's the process stone area.
All around the existing building? Because I'm looking at it, looks like you're reducing the amount of impervious surface ratio, but it looks like there's an awful lot of pavement going in there, so I'm just trying to figure out, I can't figure out. Looks to me like there's gonna be a lot less impervious surface. I mean, a lot more impervious surface with all those driveways.
If you add it up, I think it's not as big, because don't forget, their gravel area starts right at the edge of the road, and it's wide open there, so it's entirely been filled right between the edge of the road and that wall. It's all processed stone, that whole area, so if you added all this up, I mean, we're pretty close though,
Right.
0.37, 0.30, I mean, it's.
But that water can go through the gravel, it can't go through this blacktop at all, right?
Agreed, but it is, has been running basically untreated for all these years for the paving company, and now we're gonna collect it, and clean it.
So where will the water from all of this blacktop go?
That's what we're showing here. So this pitches into, there'll be a vegetated small area here that'll connect to this, and then it'll discharge through a stone berm out through this end over here.
Okay.
This all flows this way already.
And stormwater can't go into the sanitary sewer?
No, the treatment plant goes out of the way to try to make sure that's this.
Right. And all the paved areas are contained by curb?
With the exception of where we want it to run off into the.
It'll just sheet flow into that?
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know, I sort of agree with Peter. If we want to take a look, we should take a look.
Well, why don't we schedule in those that want to show up, and those that don't can rely on prior experience, and you want to do it before the next meeting? We have enough daylight, I think, probably, right? So
Yeah,
it's
probably
6
do that.
o'clock, maybe 6:30, 6 o'clock, 6:45, something like that.
When do you want to do it?
The June, well, what do we got? June 8th, or July 8th, right?
You want to do it right before the meeting? Sure, fine with me. What are you saying, 6 or 6:15?
Yeah, it shouldn't take that long, it's right up this here, right?
Yeah, that's
So,
right.
6:15
On the 6th?
on the
On the
8th.
8th, okay. So before our meeting?
Right,
Okay.
And did you say 6:15?
yeah, I mean, I think it's gonna be pretty clear when you're there. We're not having to walk around vines and stuff like that.
6:15, which day?
On the 8th of July.
So it's right before our meeting.
Okay.
Is that okay with you guys?
Thank you, yes.
Anything else, Jim?
No, that's all for this.
Any other comments from the commission on this application? Okay. Inland Wetland 210602, 173 Hotchkiss Grove Road. I guess we're demolishing an existing non-conforming house and the construction of a new house in its place. And once again,
You've been busy, Jim.
Yeah, it's been a little nuts. Jim Preddy, Criscola Engineering again. Outline in red here is 173 Hotchkiss Grove Road. Kind of depicted, I don't know if Commissioner Rose can see that in the corner. We did assume that, given what we've seen out there, that there were some wetlands off-site, so we had it flagged, and They're actually on this other property. The 100-foot line is out here. In yellow is the existing house, and you can see it's only 5 feet from the property line on this side, so it is existing non-conforming house. In the orange is the new house. It'll be within all the setback lines. The coverage is the same as what's there now. There's some existing retaining walls that will remain. There'll just be a piece of it that gets rebuilt to connect to the new house. And the driveway is going to stay where it is. Excuse me, this house has a drive under just the same as the existing house, and so there's only a little piece of new pavement area, this triangle here. Otherwise,
How different is the footprint?
the house footprint itself is the same
Same?
coverage.
Oh.
It's
Yeah,
just
by the
turned a
time you
little.
add up- By the time you add up the decks and the porches and everything, it's the same coverage. We're at 17%.
So
And
this just
the
came in
wetland is where, Jim?
Wetland
way in the
is
back, isn't it?
offsite.
Where you are.
And this is all lawn back here now, which will remain.
Where on Hutchins Grove is it, at the end? Is that near the end?
This is.
Hutchins
It
Grove?
looks like it's between 5th and 6th Avenue
Between
on
Fifth and
Hutchins
Sixth
Grove
on the
Road.
other side of the road.
Oh.
It's a little cape like now.
It's a little ranch that kind of sits up on the hill.
Yep.
It's dark green. You probably drive by it a million times.
Got it.
It's like at an angle, looks like they're turning it.
Okay.
This just came in yesterday, so I haven't really had any time to look at it yet, but it's possibly agent approval if the commission's okay with that.
Very possible.
One thing, I mean, I very briefly looked at it. Is there any on-site stormwater management?
There isn't, but that's not to say we couldn't add it. I didn't think we were required because the coverage is the same. But we could add something at the lower level here. There is area that's actually out of the flood zone that's still on the lower level.
Okay.
So we could add some infiltrators or something there.
And they're not adding that driveway that's on your map. That's the neighbor's driveway?
So this is our driveway and this is the neighbor's
Right.
driveway. They're right.
They're already both there.
Yeah, they're right there.
Just for clarification, Jim, this is Commissioner Vassman. The stormwater management guide indicates that if the coverage is the same, no additional stormwater management is required?
I thought, my understanding was that at least for single-family residences, unless you're increasing the impervious coverage, that hasn't been, traditionally hasn't been required by the engineering departments in almost any town that I've worked in.
Gotcha.
I can check with the engineering department to see what their recommendation is. Our regulations do require management of the first inch on site. We don't require it for smaller projects, like if somebody's putting a shed up or a pool or something like that, but usually for single-family residents, we do. So if the commission's comfortable, I can consult with the engineering department for their recommendation.
I mean, that 1 inch is what we've been using,
It's a standard requirement that we have
Pretty
for new
much, yeah.
single-family houses, so.
right,
So,
so,
again, because there's it's all public utilities here, we have water, sewer, gas. There isn't any need to reserve septic area or anything like that, so we can
Okay.
easily put something behind the house.
We did have another demo and rebuild recently, and they did have the management of the first
Okay,
inch,
yeah.
so I think that probably.
Okay.
Is the commission still comfortable with me doing that administratively if the limited disturbance is modified
Yes.
slightly for that?
Yep.
Where's
So-
the edge of the upland review?
It's like here, this is a 10 scale now, so.
Right through the middle of the house?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, got it.
So this is going to be a two-story house now, is that? Okay. I was trying to figure out why, if it was the same maximum lot coverage, why the maximum floor area ratio was changing, but, okay, so they're replacing it with a two-story house. Got it.
any other questions from the commission? Do we need a motion for agent approval?
General consensus is fine.
General consensus? And anybody feel differently?
No, I think agent approval is great.
Great. 5 for 5.
Thank you.
Well, 4 for 5.
Do you have any more? Or-
No, I'm done.
I'm not doing the fourth one.
I've turned this microphone on a couple times, so it may be done as well.
Okay.
Number 3.
Number 3, the public hearing, we indicated in comments at the initial stages of this meeting that we have postponed the public hearing to July 8th, 7 o'clock. I guess a site to be announced, or do we have a site for the July 8th meeting?
Site will be here.
The site will
Unless-
be here at the
Assuming the
Tabasco
commission
Community House,
continues to meet in person.
and it will be an in-person meeting.
Yay.
Number 4.
Number 4, applications for review. 210401, 4652, and 4555 Alex Warfield Road, installation of freestanding bathroom building and associated utility work. Okay.
We received a letter granting an extension to the July 8th meeting. The applicant is revising the plans for access for the utilities, where they were going to have an easement is not going to work out, so rather than reviewing it right now, commission wants to wait until there's the revised plans to review.
If you have a copy of the plan and you really want to know what's going on, I can show you, otherwise we just wait till it's fixed.
What is this place?
It's the trolley museum.
Oh, the Trolley Museum. Oh, okay.
So they're
So
adding
what do
some
we have to
utility
do? Get an
connections.
approval from them to
That's-
extend the,
No, they've already,
they did that
they
already?
already did that, asking for,
We got an extension to the July 8th
Okay.
meeting, so, yep.
Okay.
That's fine.
They had an agreement with the neighbor for an easement, and they were backed out at the last minute, so now we have another route, but we have to get it together.
Okay.
right, works for me to wait. Anybody
Better
wanna-
wait till they get it all in order,
I figured.
what
Yep.
they really want to do, and, okay.
Other business. Inland Wetland.
Take care,
Thank you,
Jim.
Inland Wetland, 191101, 1151 West Main Street. Two-pad commercial development. We have an update on the compliance of the permit and the status of the site. Staff?
So recently, it came to my attention how much the project has progressed. I've been out to the site a couple of times to meet with the contractors regarding site status and getting ready for the project. Phase 1 is, most of the groundwork is completed. I just got my first erosion control report this past week, which got sent out to the commission via email or via packets. We should have been getting them earlier. Phase 2 has started, even though Phase 1 work has not been completed. However, there are no active erosion issues on site. They did install erosion controls on Phase 2. However, we only have the surety portion of the bond for Phase 2. We do not have the cash portion of the bond for Phase 2. So I've been in correspondence with the contractor about getting that submitted. I've recommended that he get it submitted prior to tonight's meeting, because when the commission approved phasing the bond for Phase 1 and Phase 2, it was stated that if work starts on Phase 2 prior to the bond being submitted, that a stop work order would be issued. Due to the fact that the erosion controls have been installed and there haven't generally been problems, I decided to give them until today's meeting. And today I received a request to adjust the bond amount based off of activities that have been completed or are soon to be completed. It would be my recommendation not to reduce the bond and to still require the bond for Phase 2, because the erosion controls for Phase 1 are still very much needed. There's no stability to the area that's been disturbed for Phase 1. It's not been planted yet. And the plantings have not occurred yet. There is a meeting scheduled for Monday morning with myself, the contractor, and the wetland scientist to go over the planting of the mitigation area. They are on schedule. They have the plants ordered and are hoping to be able to plant next week. I think they're waiting for results on their last soil area before they move forward with the plantings. So I can read through the request for the bond reduction. I can answer any questions. Like I said, you got the erosion control report last week, and then in front of you, you should have a packet with some pictures of the site. There was a little bit of tracking when I went out this morning, but it's my understanding that an anti-tracking pad has been installed since. There was also one area where I asked for the silt sock to be repaired, and I received a picture that has been addressed.
This is Commissioner Basserman. You know, we had a Phase 1, Phase 2 issue on Gould Lane. And if we had towed the mark and not allowed Phase 2 to start, consistent with the permit that was granted for Gould Lane, we could have saved ourselves a boatload of back and forth. And I guess I'm concerned when you say you're looking to move on to a Phase 2, and Phase 1 conditions have not been.
So I acknowledge we've had problems with Phase 1 and Phase 2 on other projects, which is part of the reason why I thought it was important to bring this to the Commission's attention. I do think in this instance, Phase 1 does blend into Phase 2 very quickly. So the Phase 2 work here is trying to think of how to. Sometimes the Phase 2 work can be it's still kind of multiple pieces. On this, it kind of becomes one piece. And the Commission did receive a request seasonally if they finished Phase 1 earthwork but could not plant, could they start Phase 2 with the understanding that planting would occur as soon as it could in the spring. So, I mean, obviously we're not in that situation right now, but minus the seasonal limitations, that's pretty much where we are. The earthwork's basically done for Phase 1. Earthwork has started on Phase 2. I have told them that no more work should occur on Phase 2 until the bond for Phase 2 has been submitted. Work was still going on today, even though the bond has not been received.
So your initial inclination is to, I think what I heard is to make sure you get the bond before they go any further with Phase 2. And please correct me if I'm wrong. I thought this was we made a little bit of an adjustment already on this project by allowing them to do it as Phase 1 and Phase 2 and split their bond?
So as far as the bond goes, yes, there was an adjustment to allow them to submit Phase 1 bonding and do Phase 1 work, and then prior to any start of work on Phase 2, the Phase 2 bond will need to be submitted. They also have approval for 50% of the bond to be surety and 50% of the bond to be cash. So we have 100% of the surety right now. So we do have the surety portion, the surety bond portion for Phase 2, but we do not have the cash bond portion. So we're missing 50% of the Phase 2 bond right now.
I think I have to agree with Commissioner Basserman that there would have been a lot less mitigation needed at Gould Lane if we had stuck to our guns. And I'm inclined to go along with your initial recommendation that, especially since you've already asked them once to stop work until they give the bond and they are still working. And I feel like this is what happens to us in projects. And, you know, we have no recourse.
I think, you know, the conditions you describe as the blending of Phase 1 and Phase 2 is what it's always been. It was when we reviewed the project, when we reviewed the bond, when we had discussions about cash versus surety. We even tried to accommodate the cash issue to find another way to avoid cash. But at the end of the day, we weren't permitted to do that. We're not permitted to do it now.
Right, the only thing we're requesting is that Phase 1.
Excuse me,
You want to get a mic?
I wasn't asking a question.
he was just making a comment. I'll give you an opportunity to talk in a minute.
We've gotten off on the wrong foot. We're being ignored as of today. And we don't have what was crystal clear in our original approval. And we went out of our way to even look at whether we could accommodate requests regarding the bonds, told by town council we did not have the authority to do that. I don't know why we're discussing anything. We should be enforcing the permit as issued.
The specific request for the bond that you received today or yesterday was?
So the applicant emailed to me that the Inland Wetland Agency has a bond from our bonding company for 50% of the complete value, $89,264.24 of all the erosion control and wetland restoration / enhancement for a value of $44,632.12. Additionally, you have a cash bond for 50% of the Phase 1 work at a value of $28,965. Since all of the Phase 1 erosion control work is in place at a value of $18,257, we request that you apply the $9,628.50 cash portion of the bond to the Phase 2 cash requirement. Just as a quick aside, I would recommend the commission not do that because, as I stated previously, Phase 1 area is not stabilized. The bond is for the installation of the erosion controls, but also the maintenance of the erosion controls during the duration of time that they're needed. Also, some of the erosion controls for Phase 1 overlap with the erosion controls for Phase 2, so it would short-end the erosion control bond for Phase 2.
Do our
however-
regulations allow us to
They
treat
don't-
it the way the request is?
Our regulations don't specifically speak to a partial return of the bond, but the commission has done it in the past, so I think
Okay.
that there's room for it. And I think that once Phase 1 is stabilized and the erosion controls can be removed for Phase 1, then the commission can entertain a request to reduce the bond by the amount of the erosion controls that are unique for Phase 1. They also state that since all of the topsoil in the restoration enhancement area will be completed tomorrow, request that 50% of the $5,910 or $2,955 be applied to the Phase 2 cash bond requirement as well. My recommendation would be that this work has not occurred yet, so the commission should not consider this at this time. Between the Phase 1 erosion control and topsoil, there is a cash value of $12,583. On Tuesday, when the wetland plants are installed, the balance of the cash bond can be applied to complete the $15,667.12. We then request the return of the balance of the cash bond. So again, my recommendation would be the plantings have not been done, so it should not be considered at this time. Also, I'd like to point out the commission does not generally release the planting bond after the plantings have been installed, because again, it's to cover the planting and the survival of the planting.
Right.
We can look into past practice, knowing that this is a likely request in the future, to see if there's been any past practice on releasing the bond at any, a portion of the planting bond at a certain point after the plantings have been installed, because I feel like there has been some past practice on that. I don't know it off the top of my head, but it certainly isn't immediately upon being planted.
Okay, so, this is Commissioner Bassman, so at this point, we have a permit that's been issued, we have a phased activity going on, there are some conditions on Phase 1 that still need to be met. I guess before we entertain a vote on this, the applicant want to make a few words?
Yeah,
Please
no,
announce
no.
yourself and,
Right, the only thing that, thank you, John Construction, the only thing that we're suggesting.
hold on, you're going to get a
I
mic.
can't hear you if we
Is
don't
that the
have.
one that's not?
Sorry, here you go.
So the only thing that we're suggesting is that you have a bond for the entire value from the bonding company. So the cash bond that you have on Phase 1, you have. It's the exceedance of what's needed for Phase 2. But you still, no matter what, have, for whatever maintenance would need to happen in Phase 1, because the erosion controls don't ever leave Phase 1, right? The silt socks around the perimeter remain, topsoil remains, the wetland plants grow. So if there's ever an issue with any of the wetland plants, you have 50% from the surety, which is more than enough money to compensate for any of the few plants that don't grow. Plus, we're gonna be on site till next spring when all these and the Chase Bank are built. We'll be on site through the winter. So all that maintenance, we have to take care of it. All the erosion controls have to stay there. They're not going anywhere. So the cash portion of that, so they're installed, everything's installed. The site just went through in its most open condition, torrential rains of Memorial Day and last night. nothing moved. The site is stable. Erosion controls are installed properly, everything is done properly, and the site is stable. So the only thing we're saying is you have any protections that the agency would ever need to use to fix whatever we don't fix as we're on site, you have from the surety. Additionally, you have the cash. Only thing we're saying is move the cash from phase 1 to phase 2, since the phase 1, all the erosion controls are in place and they're not going anywhere. They're not, it's not like they're being picked up. It's not like they're being taken away. They can't, they're not gonna go anywhere. So it's just a matter of an additional $15,000 of cash for no reason. There's nothing you're gonna do with the $15,000 cash.
Excuse me, other than it's a condition of the
Yeah,
permit.
that's the bond for the permit.
That's,
I understand that.
And we were not granted any
Right, so
latitude.
all I'm saying is slide the 28,000 over to cover the 15, because you still have 50% from the surety. So if there's any maintenance issue that we don't take care of, that you as a commission feel as though you need to hire out to someone to go and do, you have plenty of money to do it.
We're not here to make that determination. There's a bond amount, surety and cash. We exhausted our options on the cash, the amount's the amount, and we're here on the heels of you not even doing your work in accordance with the permit. Maybe if you ask us 3 months after you've done all the work in accordance with the permit would be a good time, but not on the heels of not doing the work in accordance with the permit.
All the erosion controls are in place.
I'm reading the letter here. Is it not true? So the bond is the bond, and nothing has changed. And a week's worth of disturbance subject to the rain isn't proof of anything. So we have a permit, it should just be performed.
All right, you'll have the $15,000 check tomorrow, no problem.
Great.
So.
thank you. Go ahead.
I just want to also talk with the commission about the fact, well, there's a couple of things, but the other thing is the fact that phase 1 has not been completed, but they do have a planned schedule for completing it. Is the commission okay with phase 2 continuing if the bond is received tomorrow?
And
'Cause
what
they're
would,
basically
what
on the
would be
same-
entailed in the start of phase 2?
Phase 1 is the restoration in the back of the site. Phase 2 is the pad development. So if you've driven by 1151 West Main Street recently, anything you can see from the road, that's phase 2 work. I think it would be reasonable to consider letting them continue phase 2
Yeah.
once the bond has been submitted, because they did install the erosion controls for phase 2 as I requested. They did respond to the anti-tracking pad. I've not seen any active erosion issues on the property aside from the slight tracking.
And there was no bar against them doing phase 1 and phase 2 in the order they're doing it now. We didn't prohibit them from doing that in the permit. The only issue is the bond and having possession of it, correct?
The bond, but they were supposed to do phase 1, complete phase 1 before moving on to phase 2.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot that.
So I just have a question. What's the holdup on finishing phase 1?
So
The
at this
season?
point.
Is that what I heard?
That was something that was discussed historically. At this point, the holdup is getting the test results for the final area that they have because there was some soil contaminate, or there was some contamination back there. So have you gotten the results for that?
Results are coming tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
So tomorrow, the whole big backfill, topsoil placed. We have our installation meeting Monday, plants will go in Monday afternoon, be done Tuesday.
Okay, so this phase 1 was part of that environmental cleanup?
Environmental cleanup and the plantings for the mitigation area.
All right, so
So
Way in the back.
they have it all lined up. They're going to be doing it while they're doing phase 2.
I mean, I think
as
it's
long as
reasonable
the-
while they wait for soil tests, and as long as you get the bond, then they can continue work, and then they can finish. That's just my opinion.
No, I agree. I mean, the weather's decent, they can continue getting the project moving forward, and yeah, we don't want to hold up for, I mean, there's a money issue, but push that aside. Looks like activity, there's a plan for the activity.
Okay.
Anybody feel differently?
No, no problem.
Okay.
And then just a couple of other notes. One is the commission had for phase one was requested to allow for the use of silt socks rather than, or silt socks rather than, sediment, silt fence. So that's what they have on site. It seems to be working fine. We're getting weekly erosion reports now. I'll make sure I'm out there checking it. Does the commission have any concern with that being used generally across the site?
I thought we were asked that and we said okay.
I'm pretty sure it was okayed for phase one. I'm not sure that it was okayed for phase two, but, so that's what I'm asking
I
right
don't
now.
remember distinguishing between the two.
Okay,
I don't either.
okay.
What is, that's different than the erosion control discussion that we had with Gould Lane. Oh, those were flock?
Yeah, that's
Right,
flock lots.
these are different, right, okay. Yep,
And then the last thing I want to bring to the commission's attention is that there has been a minor site plan modification in the elevation of the pads to, as I understand, help reduce the cut and fill required on the site. It doesn't change the drainage.
how much? What's the difference in
It
elevation?
varies across the site, but I want to say between 1 and 2 feet, do you know?
It's not 2 feet, it's between 8 inches and 12.
8
And what's
inches
the
of
reason
cut.
for that?
Higher,
We balance the site. We just tried to balance the site to reduce export.
so you're lifting it or going, you're lifting it to avoid having to take material off-site?
Reduce truck.
That makes sense,
I-
I think, right?
Yeah.
Reviewed the plans with the town engineer. He didn't have any concerns regarding the drainage. It's the same patterns, it's the same capacity. The limits of disturbance are the same. The final grades around the edge of the activity are the same. So is the commission okay
Yeah,
with me
it
just?
doesn't change the hydrology effects, right? Right, okay.
Let me just take a quick look at my notes to make sure I touched on everything. I think so. Did you have any other questions for the commission while you're here?
Nope, nope.
So as long
All
as the
set.
bond's submitted tomorrow, good to go, continue on phase two.
Yep.
I'll meet with them on Monday and keep you updated if there's any change in status.
Okay,
Thank you.
enforcement activity. Season correct 190901 and notice of violation 190902. 7680 Pent Road, clearing of vegetation along a water course. And we have nobody here for
Nobody's
Pent
here. I
Road.
told the homeowners that they did not need to attend. I went out to the site yesterday and met with them. I think
There's
I
a
only
letter
have
in
one
here.
copy of the pictures, so I'm sorry, but I'll hand them out.
I think there's two, one's clicked in.
Have they done everything you've asked?
So this was a planting status update, so I went out there and the plantings are there. There were a couple plantings that had not made it, which she replaced. It was a little bit hard to see everything because it was overgrown, so I told her that she should cut back some of the vegetation around the plantings, just so that they can establish a bit more. Not completely in between the plantings, but just around them.
Probably afraid to cut any.
We also talked about, there's a little bit of Phragmites. I told her she could cut that and spot treat it consistent with the management plan she had submitted that was approved by the commission. The NOV pertaining to the meadow area, I looked at that, and she had cut it once this year, consistent with what was approved. So things are looking pretty good. The plants are really small still, so I would, if the commission wants me to go back out and check it either this fall or again next year, I think that might be a good idea, but she does have all the plantings flagged, and she has been keeping up with them to a point, but yes, I think she was afraid to cut anything without permission. But obviously want her planting, the planting she paid for to make it, so they can't be shaded out by the other stuff.
You're getting cooperation,
Yes, yeah.
okay?
So does the commission want another update at some point, either next year or at the end of, or in the fall? Or are they satisfied with the progress that has been made? The other thing is the the silt fence is still in, but it's not doing anything at this point, so I plan on
Were
telling
the
her she can
plantings done in
remove
the
it.
fall or just recently?
I'm sorry?
The plantings were done in the fall or just recently?
The plantings were done last summer.
Oh, okay.
She put them in early summer. She watered them throughout the year. I went out there and checked them last fall, and they were doing pretty good. And then again this year, this is the last one that was specified in the letter, but it did reference that additional monitoring required. So, and I mentioned that to her in the field yesterday, and she said whatever the commission wants.
I think, why don't we schedule, go out sometime in September and check, see if she's cut back and allowed the plants to thrive.
Okay.
And we may call it a day at that point.
I agree with that.
Also, that as well.
Yeah. Okay. Cease and correct 210301, 143 Ivy Street, also known as 143 North Ivy Street. Earth disturbance, drainage, vegetation removal within the upland review area.
That's that sign, right?
Yeah, so I think there's 3 pictures. So we received a letter from the management company that the work had been completed and that they considered the work they needed to do complete. I then received an email, I think 2 days ago, asking if they could remove the erosion controls. I told her that I was putting it on the agenda for this week's meeting. I think the erosion controls could be removed. The disturbed area is pretty established with vegetation, with the exception of on the corner of the driveway where the curb repair still needs to occur. I talked with the engineering department, and they said hopefully that work will be done in the next month. So the drainage work that they were gonna do has been completed, and that area has been restored with grass seed. And
Yeah, I have it,
I
I'm
don't
sure.
think that the
Thanks.
area that remains
We went
has a
there,
high
remember?
erosion potential. And that work is to be completed by the town for the most part. I would suggest that if the commission was comfortable, they could lift the order with the understanding that any areas that need to be touched up with seed are touched up after the curb repair is done, and that the sandbags remain in place until the curb repair is complete.
And the town is doing that.
And the town is doing that, it's scheduled, and the purchase order has, it's my understanding, been,
I think it's reasonable to lift it when that work has been completed.
I'm sorry?
I think it's prudent to lift the order when that work has been completed.
So wait until
The town has done
the
their job.
town is done?
Yeah.
Okay. But,
I think that's consistent with our practice.
okay. Is the commission okay with me telling her that she can remove the erosion controls that are on the opposite side of the driveway?
Yeah, you're saying they're not really doing
Okay.
anything.
And acknowledging the fact that they're done with the work they need to do aside from any lawn touch-up after the town work is
Yeah.
completed? Okay.
NOV 210601, 155 Cherry Hill Road, placement of shed and the maintenance of yard within a possible wetland area. Within a possible wetland area.
So I think this is the last item in your new packet, and this might speak to some of the conversation that we had earlier.
Oh, here it is.
This is from the 99 Todd's Hill subdivision. It's lot 14. It's a brand-new property owner. They purchased the property, put up a shed. They looked online, they saw they didn't need a building permit for a shed, so they thought they were good to go. Out doing inspections for the subdivision, saw the shed, saw the lot corner stake location, and if the stake in that picture is the corner of the lot, then it looks like the shed is in the wetland area. Granted, if you look in that picture, I think that it makes sense. Somebody might not realize that's a wetland area. Long story short, I gave them a call because they had a pending building application for something else. And I told them that they needed a permit for the shed, and that they needed to get the shed added to the survey, and if it's in the wetland area, it's gonna have to be moved. They did send me they acknowledged that they would work with me. They also sent me an email, and they requested that this item be tabled to the next meeting. I said I was still gonna inform the commission about the activity that occurred, but the commission could continue discussion to the next meeting. And I didn't really emphasize it in the letter as far as the cutting of the grass, because at the very minimum, I would think that he should be allowed to cut it once or twice a year from a meadow standpoint. But based on the conversation earlier, I think that there's not really too much more that needs to be said on the,
Well, except for this, that grass we were talking about cutting earlier
Except for
was in the
in the
upland
wetland
review
area
area. This
specifically,
grass is in the wetland, right?
theoretically, yes. So that's why I'm asking to get the updated survey. So we can have that conversation specifically once we get that information. So hopefully, this discussion will kind of move to the application side of things. for the-
You're requiring them to fill out an application?
Yes, I figured that was probably the easiest way to
Yeah.
address the action.
Okay.
And get all the information. Yeah.
And I didn't give them a deadline, but I can follow up and request that it's submitted for receipt at the July 8th meeting. I think that's a reasonable time to get that information.
So just so I understand, if the shed, like we were talking about earlier, is in the upland review area, it could stay, but if it's in the wetlands, it has to move?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they've been told to flag the wetland?
I have not, but I can request that that also occur.
I mean, if we're talking about the possible relocation of a building, it seems like we better be on firm ground. No pun intended.
Yeah, and we've had this discussion before on getting appropriate and consistent information. So I think the commission brings up the issue of making sure that we have the same level of confidence in the wetland on this particular application, or
We have to know where the
case-
wetland
Where
boundary
it
is.
is.
We just have to know that.
right.
Aren't those wetland boundaries on the site thing that's at the town hall?
That's not.
That you can't depend on those, I
Can't
think.
by that,
Oh,
Not
you
really.
can't.
The property owner did get a copy of the as-built survey, which does show the wetland.
Like what they've been
Extent
presenting
on it,
here, right?
yeah.
Did you guys look at that to determine from that information whether it's in the wetland area or
That,
not?
I think it's in the wetland area based off of that and the corner stake that's in the, on the site. But those
site.
stakes do move, so I'm willing to give the benefit of the doubt. And since it is being maintained as lawn right now, I figured it wasn't hurting that much to just get the information before.
So if it looks
Okay.
like it on the
Leaving.
map that it may reasonably be in the wetlands, then it would be up to them to have a wetland survey and get
To
it
verify.
delineated
Right, right.
and
Yep.
prove that it isn't wetland.
Didn't you say that the wetland boundary is shown on an A2 already? So they know where it is, so we don't need them to go out with a soil scientist. What we need them to do is have a surveyor
Yes.
flag, stake out the actual wetland
Yeah,
boundary.
so I told him he needed to have the shed added to an A2 survey. So,
Yeah.
and if it was in the wetland, it was gonna have to be relocated and a mitigation plan would have to be.
Yeah, so a license, so the license surveyor wouldn't even have to go out and stake the wetland line. He could just go out, locate the shed, put it on the map, and if it's over that line on the map, we have a problem.
Yeah, and he could stake the wetland extent while he was out there, and it wouldn't
Okay.
be
Yeah.
that much more work if that's something the commission
Well,
thinks.
the ball's in their
beneficial,
court,
but
so
yeah.
they need to get back to
Yeah,
you.
I just reached out to them yesterday
Yeah,
afternoon, they just got this letter. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm not surprised they couldn't be here and that they wanted to be part of the conversation. They have been asking a lot of questions, and I do think that they really are interested in making sure they don't have any other hiccups in the future, so.
Okay. Item 7, agent approvals. The floor is yours.
46 Parish Farm Road, the commission reviewed this and okayed for agent approval. Same thing with 32 Victor Hill Road, however, I want to disclose that I have actually not approved that yet. It is on my to-do list. There's another possible project in that area, and I was hoping to tag team the two, but I will have to fast route that one. 18 Whiting Farm Road, I brought to the commission, and I believe that Jim Preddy gave a brief overview at the last meeting. I went out to the site with him, and there was a brief modification that was made to save a tree, and that's been approved administratively. 22 Brightwood Lane, it's an above-ground pool. I approved that administratively based on general past practice with above-ground pools with the standard conditions regarding drainage and disturbance. Any questions?
No, just a general question. I'm surprised we haven't had more pool applications.
Don't jinx us. They're coming.
Pool companies are all too busy to put
Yeah, that's
anything
probably
out.
right.
We actually had a lot over the winter too, so I think they might have been spread out a little bit because people couldn't get their pools last year, so they're
You
a
can't
little
get
My
bit,
understanding
hopefully
is,
more proactive this year.
pool company I deal with, Amazon, because they're putting up steel buildings, bought all the excess steel. So you got no steel if
build
you're
the
putting
frame.
in a vinyl pool, number one.
And there's no
Number
chlorine.
two, there's no
Yeah.
chlorine because of the fire at the factory, right? There's limits on supply. Liners, right, the liners are done for the year.
I know, because ours is all faded, and I said, oh, maybe we should get a new liner, and the guy
What-
said, not this year.
Not this year, not next year. Amazing. All right, correspondence in the wetland 080602, 26 Cherry Hill Road. We got a family residential development. Oh, we got the.
So-
Where is
construction building.
26 Cherry Hill Road in relation to the Todd's Hill development?
So this is across from the Canewbrook Senior Center, kind of. It's that
Oh,
corner lot that's heavily wooded with a single-family house on it.
that's been before
Wow.
us before, right?
Yeah, so they got a permit back in 2008, hence the IW08. I put this on here just to update the commission. We had a preliminary site inspection, site meeting with the contractors, planning and zoning and inland wetlands. We went over the permit requirements, in fact, they have to contact us when they're putting, for the erosion control inspection, and some of the other permit requirements that are required. So I'm expecting them to start work soon, if everything goes as they plan.
How many units are they putting in there?
I don't remember off the top of my head, I wanna say 8 or 10.
It's 8.
The original, 8,
I think so.
the original plan was for more units, and it had units on both sides of the property. The revised plan has 8 units closer to Main Street, and the single-family house that's on the corner of Cherry Hill and Route 1 will remain. So that area, the only activity that's happening really within the upland review area is the drainage outlet for the project. Everything else is out beyond the 100-foot upland review area.
Inland wetland 200401, 367, 373, 375, 377 East Main, redevelopment of existing motel, restaurant and bank to a multifamily housing with commercial retail space.
Where is that?
That's the
Well,
Days
that's
Inn,
that big
15.
development we approved over at,
that's the Days Inn property.
where the motel.
Oh, yeah, right.
Where it used to be a bank there,
Yeah.
or still
Yep.
buildings
The
there.
building's there, right?
Building's there, but not for too much longer.
Margarita's there.
Marguerite, yeah.
I met with them, I want to say last week, to go over the limits of disturbance. And I was expecting to be contacted this week for the erosion control inspection. I either will get contacted tomorrow or they're a little bit behind. So I would expect them, they want to start demoing the two of the buildings in the front, I think the restaurant and the bank, if I remember correctly. That's kind of phase 1 of their project. So
And it's
that
still
work-
gonna be a motel there?
No, it's
No,
gonna
no,
be
that's all
mixed,
coming down.
commercial and residential.
Is the
Oh, I
retail
can't
building?
Mostly residential with a little bit of commercial right out on the main street.
So it's like apartments, right?
It's like a what?
Condos or apartments?
Yeah, it's apartments.
I think it's
I
apartments.
guess you call them, yeah.
The retail building that's close to the underpass, is that being vacated and demolished?
Nope, that's remaining.
That's staying?
Yep,
That's too bad.
that's staying. They're gonna, I think, give it a little bit of a facelift as part of the process.
Oh,
but,
goody.
I think they're gonna repave that section. So just wanted to let you guys know what's up and coming, what I've been contacted about. So if the commission wants, I can kind of create a new section on the agenda for that, so that way you guys know that's why it's on there, or we can just keep it
So
under
you're gonna have some
correspondence.
things to keep your eye on.
And announce, oh yeah, we're gonna, yep. There's a lot going on,
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
a lot of active sites.
And last under correspondence, and then Wetland Regulation Fee Revision Subcommittee. Last meeting was May 20th. Approve at the next subcommittee meetings, and that is scheduled for July 15th.
And the minutes from that subcommittee meeting are in the Dropbox, if anyone wants to take a look at them.
It's a page turner, too.
Oh, yeah.
So, do we need a meeting, motion to adjourn, or we got anything else?
Yeah, I want an apology. I did not introduce staff when we did the roll call, so I apologize for that.
It's okay.
I don't think we have to do roll calls anymore, unless you want to.
You want your picture?
Well, it's on the agenda. Let's take it
Oh,
off
it
the
is, you're
agenda.
right.
I've
Take
only
it
done
back.
Zoom meetings so far, I don't know.
So,
It's not a bad idea.
Commissioner Gerdolf's point, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to
I'm
adjourn.
making a motion.
I'll second it.
I'll second, whatever, fight about it.
You just
Yeah,
pick.
the-
I'll beat you to the
Commissioner
door.
Rose, Commissioner Fast, that's what I got there. We had set up for both.
Any.
This program was brought to you in part through the support of the Town of Branford. Watch town meetings and other videos on demand at BranfordTV.org.